You know, you want that pushback. So you have to be able to dial in the right amount of dialogue that takes place on something. You know, one of the greatest things that someone can say in a creative brainstorming session is, let's think about that. Let's go think about it. Let's go have lunch. Maybe it's Friday, you're going to think about it over the weekend. You're not going to just spit out an immediate answer. Like I have a saying, and this is a little weird. It's no decision should be made until the last possible moment. Think about that for a second. No decision should be made until the last possible moment. Why would you make a decision before you needed to make it? In anything. What do you want to have for dinner? I'll decide at dinner in the restaurant when I'm looking at the menu, or before I buy the groceries to cook it. I don't have to decide the day before. Because if I do that, I lose a whole day of thinking, and where I can kind of decide how my body feels, right? But you find yourself in this trap where someone asks you a question, you feel that you have to answer it right then and there, like you're on a fucking game show. You're not on a game show. Take all the time in the world up until there's no time. When there's no time left, you can make your decision. And I think that's part of the creative process too. Don't decide everything in a big hurry. If you have no time left, well then you have to decide. And in game projects and production, this is a thing that comes up a lot. You'll notice there's people who are supposed to make decisions and they're not making decisions. They've passed the point where they need to make a decision. And now they're screwing up the project because they can't decide. So creativity in a team environment, it's a little complicated. We'll get back to this. I'm scrolling through my notes, covered a bunch of this. I love the fact that as a creative person, you can create something we call a fictional universe. You can go right now to your computer, open up Word or Pages or whatever, and you can create an entire universe. Think about that. Depending on your view of the world we live in, whether it's God or the universe as a spiritual power or whatever it is. I mean, this is something that only the universe or God does. But here we are as people capable of sitting down in front of a computer and creating our own universe. What's interesting was when you create your universe, you think it only exists inside of the thing, inside of the Word document, inside of the book. Pick up this book and enter my universe. This is what you kind of think when you hand your book to someone or your story or what have you. Think about this. This stuff escapes the books and it enters our life all the time. You guys all heard the word grok. Maybe not. Heinlein. Stranger in a Strange Land. To grok. Here's his world, his universe that he's created. And yet this word found its way back into our language. If I asked you guys, what's the answer to life, the universe, and everything? The answer? How's that possible? We're not in Douglas Adams' book right now, right? We're in Kyiv. We're at this event today. How is it that Douglas Adams is here with us? Love Douglas Adams. I love his creative. I love his unfiltered creativity. I think the artists of the world that broke the rules, that did what they wanted, that created the universes they wanted, they're the ones we care about the most. Because they led the way. They didn't play it safe. And that to me is fascinating. But I want to make a point, right? When we're inventing our art, when we're creating, we're actually changing the world that we live in. Profound. We're changing the world we live in. You can create something and suddenly find people living that way. There was a math, I forget the name of him, he's a brilliant computer scientist, he's written all kinds of books. He invented imaginary computer language. And people went and built the language. Why not? They brought his imaginary computer language to life. We see this all the time, actually. So I think this is a key thing. when you're creative, realize that you're actually putting bricks on the wall of the reality that we live in. We could have lived in a trillion different versions of this world that we're in right now. There's no saying that we all have to walk around with clothes and the buildings need to look like this and we need to have cars. You know, like, this is just one version of it, but this is the version that we built out of our imaginations. We're literally living in our own imagination. Think about that for a second. We dreamed almost everything up except our own DNA. And in a way now, we're shaping our DNA. So we're starting to change who we actually are. And the way we selectively choose our mates and the way we advance medical science, we're actually creating a new version of ourselves. We're taking over from a primitive form of evolution into an advanced form of evolution, which I think is kind of interesting to think about. So we create our own universe. We dream up universes and then we live in our universe. Now, it doesn't happen really fast, but I think it's there. I'm going to check time. We have only 10 minutes left. That doesn't seem fair. You know what I love? I love the fact that creative sometimes thinks it has to happen when I go to the office. I don't even like to call it work. If you're going to work, you change your job. Don't go to work. I highly recommend that none of you go to work on Monday. Okay? It's a bad idea. Go to have fun. Do what you love. Instead of going to the office and opening up your computer, you've got your coffee, what have you, and saying, it's time to be creative. No, be creative all day long. All day long, all night long. Be creative in the shower, on the toilet. You know I was going to say that. Right, so that's probably not the most creative thing I've said. I love the shower. I don't know what it is about the shower. The water hitting the back of your head, your mind is just emptying, and then these ideas rush in and you go, shit, I gotta put a thing in there or whatever. But so you can write your ideas. I actually tried this with a microphone, that a little recorder that was waterproof, and the fucking thing didn't work. It was like, and the ideas just whatever. Have you ever heard the saying, an idle mind is the devil's workshop? Okay, so someone who's got nothing to do, just create. This is senior management in any company, right? Okay, where they have nothing going on. So what they do is they dream stuff up. Okay, because they've got time to dream stuff up. So you know this is important, right? But there's another saying that contradicts it, and that is necessity is the mother of invention. You're in a tight spot. You need an idea, so you come up with something really fast, kind of like this talk. All right, so how can it be that if an idle mind allows you to be creative, and yet time pressure allows you to be creative? What's the answer? They're both true. Creativity comes from both of those situations. I was thinking about this last night at 4 a.m. while I was typing up these notes. I was like, creativity comes from happy people, but it also comes from miserable people. Think about that. You can't corner the market on creativity. Creativity can come from people who are distraught, from people who are manic. It can come from everywhere. I think we like it when it comes from happy people. Just, that's me, but it comes from everywhere. And it happens all day long. Now, interesting thing, I talked about the fact that you can build the way that you think creatively. In a way, what you're doing is you're taking science, the science of the psychology of the mind, and you're saying, if I can understand how the mind works, I can actually get more out of it, like you can with your muscles. When you use it, you get better at it. Jerry Seinfeld, randomly, I've got my phone jammed full of this stuff, and I'm in my pottery studio, and I'm doing some pottery, and this is actually a great place to have some ideas. Throwing bowls on the wheel. And Jerry comes in, I literally randomized my entire playlist. I've got thousands and thousands of songs. And Jerry comes up and he's in this interview and he goes, you know, people wonder, you guys all know who Jerry Seinfeld is, I'm sure. He goes, people say, how do you do it, Jerry? You make it look so easy. You make it look so easy. How do you do it? This is his, his comedy routines and so forth. He goes, you know what? It's not easy at all. It's hard work. It's really hard work. It takes, you gotta put in the time, you gotta sweat. So when you're working at something and you're thinking, well, I'm creative, I'm just gonna, if it doesn't just come out, maybe I don't have the answer. Well, what you realize is that if you work really hard at it, if you sweat a little bit, even better ideas come. And you've got to have the first idea, so maybe you throw it away so you can get to the second idea, so you can get to the third idea, so you can iterate and get to the really good stuff. But it's not easy. It's not like it's just free. Now, it does come free to some brilliant people, okay? God bless them for being able to just sit there and whip out something brilliant and go, here it is, okay? But that's not the word, that's not a normal thing. And I don't think we're here today, like I said, in this version of our reality because we live in those worlds. We live in the world of people who work very, very hard to get to us all to where we are today. So if you work hard, you get more creative, which is interesting. One of the things that I found out about myself is that creativity is shy. You have to unlock it. You have to give yourself permission. You have to say to yourself, it's okay. I get to make an ass out of myself. Okay, I get to embarrass myself. I get to take chances. So this is a core message. If you're afraid, fear will fucking kill you. Okay? Don't be afraid. When you ever find yourself in a situation, right, where you're sort of in a conversation, it's social, you want to be funny, you want to be creative, and you're thinking, I can't say that, I'll make an ass of myself. Just for a night, make an ass out of yourself all night long. Don't insult anyone. Just say shit that comes into your mind. It's really quite interesting. I've been doing it my whole life. I'm doing it right now. Okay? And the penalty for fucking up is pretty bad. People walk around maybe for 20 minutes going, God damn it, I wasted 45 minutes listening to that. Well, you gotta take a chance. At St. Petersburg, I gave this sort of weird talk, and I took a fucking total flyer on it. I was like, this could just bomb hard. And it kind of partly did. But the cool thing was that I did it. And I got to process that and learn from that and ask myself, what worked, what didn't work? I got to advance myself and decide if I wanted to ever do that again. It was kind of like a lecture. I tried a lecture technique where I kind of interacted with the audience back and forth. And there were some good things about it, but I tried it. Because what would I have done conventionally? I would have said, nah, that's a shitty idea. I remember telling people, I was testing them, I was like, hey, what do you think of this idea? I'm going to do this question and answer thing, we're going to do this. And some of them legitimately said, no, don't do it. Don't do it. You'll lose some sort of equity in the universe. People will, think you're, what? How, think I'm crazier than I already am? What are you saying? So I did it anyway, and I thought it was fun. I decided not to do it today. I decided to make notes, take Chet's bet. I hope I won like a coffee or something. He's give me the thumbs up. I just made $4. All right. So with the time we have left, which is very little, building a creative team is hard. You can get lucky. I could pick 5 of you, and we could all go away, and we could be like magic. Soulmates, creatively. Brilliant. Every idea is pure magic. Or, probably not, we battle. We get rid of somebody. We bring someone in. play around some more, get rid of someone else, bring someone else in, throw some ideas away, right? Really sweat to build that team. When you get your team, this is an important milestone in your life, to find that team. I know there are people in this industry and in the world of film and other arts that when they get that team, they stay together their whole lives because they've got something truly special. So building the creative team is hard, takes a long time, and when you get it, keep it. Now, I had it in my head that I was going to talk about some anecdotes from the past, but I've flat run out of time. I will say something though about people and creative. I think we like to believe that if we all stood in a row, like we maybe took some folks and we stood up here, that we'd all be creative with words. Okay? So each person would say, well, you know, I'm a Viking on a mule, and the next person says, I'm a, you know, whatever, and the ideas are fun and creative. But you know, people aren't like that. Not everybody wants to talk out loud about their creative. There's somebody in the room here who's brilliant that they don't want to say a word. They want to write it down. Other people are brilliant because they draw pictures. Other people can't really generate the core idea, but they can edit your idea and add value to it and make it way, way better. How important is that person? How valuable is that person? Really valuable. They can multiply, they can force multiply on your creative, and they can't come up with anything themselves. You'll go, hey Jimmy, you're so good at this, why don't you design the next game? And he's like, I can't. I don't even know where to start. I don't even care. What are you thinking? And you tell him, and he's like, oh, that sounds cool, and we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do that. So these types of relationships, don't go looking for creative people that are exactly like you. Now, they have to be on your frequency. I'm sorry to get weird, but there's kind of a vibe when it comes to creative. And you don't have to be high. I know what you're thinking. You can be sober, but you got a vibe. You have a creative vibe. I know you guys, I know you're vibing right now. I feel it. You know, when someone's in your vibe, you get so much more. And when they're not in your vibe, you have to say to them, look, you have to give some sort of a breakup. It's like breaking up with your girlfriend or boyfriend. You know what? You're just not the one for me, but you're going to make someone else very, very happy. Some shit like that. You guys are all giving that speech in the driveway. Oh, a few tears. It's great. We just, you know, they gotta go. So style matters when it comes to creativity. It's not just a factory of widgets. It's the style in which these people operate creatively. There's people that are so brilliant, that operate so differently than anything I could have imagined. I just know that I want to be in the room with them. I want to go to lunch with them. I want to hang out with them all the time because I just love being around them. And when that happens, you know you've got a good vibe. Anyway, I think my wish today, as I wrap it up, is that there's some little piece of what I said today about creative that can affect the way you think about it, that enhances and inspires you to come back to creative and go, fuck, Chris, you crazy bastard. You had a fucking impact on me. You changed the way I feel about creative. I realize it's so much bigger. It's kind of everything, in a way. And that's my goal. And I hope I can achieve a little bit of it. And that you guys are welcome to send me email if you want to give me feedback on that. I love to get feedback, especially with these kinds of talks. Because I don't think I chose an easy talk. I think that I knew going in that I was in the deep end of the pool, talking about the creative process. Well, take your creativity to the next level. Let that wild beast off the chain. Take whatever it is in your mind where you think all your creative energy comes from, make a thing out of it, and then just blow it out. Blow it right out. Climb inside it, smash it, consume the world with it. You know, on a universal scale, I would lay in bed at night and I would have this like, and I would just go to the far edges of the universe and I'd say, yeah, yeah. Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Totally kidding. Never touched it. But it's a funny thing to say, isn't it? Anyway, that's it. Thank you. And hopefully we can do some Q&A for like 5 or 10 minutes. All right. We got a question in the back. We got a microphone to this gentleman. They're right in the back corner there. He's on the other side of the pole. That's a terrible seat, isn't it? That's the cheap seats.
This is what happens when you get here late.
So first off, hi, Nick from Plarium. I'm also a creative director, and one of the questions that I had for you is when you're looking at people that you're adding to a creative team, you only have so much time to do the vetting process and kind of get, like you said, their vibe. What do they like? What are they into? What makes them cool? They match. So if you're building a creative team from scratch and you're meeting a perfect stranger for the first time, how do you go through that process? How do you get a feel for them? And when do you kind of know that they're going to be a match for the team or worth trying out? Like, what are your criteria?
You know, I look for smart people, fun people, lovable people, charismatic people, people that I just get a good energy with. I've had pretty good luck. You know, on Total Annihilation, we brought together a team of people and we just gelled, and it was magic. And I don't think I've ever hit that level. It just was a magical group. And so when you try to create it artificially or kind of, you know, like you're trying to cultivate it, you just have to be prepared for failure in a sense and say, you know what, I'm just gonna have to hire people and some people aren't gonna work and they're just gonna have to go. But they need time. They need 3, 4, 5 months sometimes, you know, after, you know, 8 weeks. But the fact is, people are good at interviews. You know, they know how to, I mean, and they're high, right?
Yeah,
they're
hopefully.
High. They're high. They're high on life. They're in a job interview at a really awesome game company, and they're giddy. You're getting a different person out of them. You got to get them in the daily routine. You know, you got to find out what they're all about. So you just have to take chances. But it's being. You've all heard this before. You have to be capable of letting people go from your team. And that's really painful, but it's a key element of success, is to let people go. Sad as that may be, you have to be able to pull the trigger and let them go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the great question. We have time for maybe one more. How are we doing for time? A couple more?
When you're talking about creativity, sometimes you need to set some restrictions to creativity. For example, you're making a game without giant talking spiders. How do you guide your team to be creative with some restrictions?
Well, this is it. I mean, if you're like, in a sense, if you're a novelist, you have no restrictions. And nowadays you don't even have a paper or a publishing restriction. You can just create your world. I mean, this is why I would imagine that today we should see some of the most incredible works of fiction ever. We're not really. We're seeing the normal amount of fiction, I would say. The thing with commercial art, as it were, is that it's got restrictions everywhere. Time restrictions, financial restrictions, subject matter restrictions. I mean, if you're working in a company like, say, Rovio, it's going to be, kind of like a small free-to-play game on your phone, and it's going to have all these constraints. So if someone says, oh, I want to create the next World of Warcraft, you'll be like, not here, sorry. That is a fact of life for professional creative people, People who work at advertising agencies, people who are designing. Imagine if you were designing the next year of car X, whatever it is, the 2000 and I guess maybe their 2019 Chevy Camaro. And you know, you work for months and months and months, and you change the fender a little bit, you change the line, and you're like, oh, we're gonna taper it in a little bit. Oh God, that's brilliant. Oh, it's pretty hard to get excited about that. Well, you're in the automobile industry. You signed up for that. If you want wild creativity, then you probably need to be in a different business, because that's not gonna scratch the itch. You know? So I think that you have to kind of know what you're getting yourself into. I see creative people who exercise their creative beast, you know, at home in something else. You know, they work on something, maybe they're working on the monetization system for a game, and it's all spreadsheets, but it's still creative and complex. But then they go and they do something else that just blows it right out. And I think it's important to do that. I don't think you should wait for someone to give you a paycheck to be creative, okay? The person who's holding that checkbook does not control your creativity. You have to be creative. If you're a creative type, which you all are, every one of you here, then you have to give yourself permission to be creative anytime, all the time. And so regardless of the constraints, now I didn't answer your question, I know that, because there's probably no answer other than to say, you set boundaries, they have to operate within those boundaries. As a creative director, if someone doesn't get the work done, you give the work to someone else. If the work ultimately does not get done, the work has to come back to you as the creative director, because you're running a business. There's no magic, there's no magic to that. It's just pure reality of the world. So I think if you're asking me for management techniques, that's a deep subject. How do you manage people? One of the things I definitely don't do is I don't use fear to manage. Fear is the most fucked up thing that we have in the creative system. You'll be fired, or you'll lose your position, or you won't get that promotion. I don't believe that. It's like beating a horse around a track. I don't believe that's the way you get creative with people. They either have it or they don't. And you can coach them and inspire them, but that's going to give you a multiple on top of their core abilities that you either believe they have or they don't have. So I wish we could actually talk for an hour on that, because there's a lot more behind that. Another question? Oh, right here. Cool.
I got a really quick question. So, what's your best advice for young creative teams?
Young creative teams. Okay, so you have a team, and I think in some weird way I wish they were here. Well, this will be videotaped, and they think about some of the things that I talked about. Ask themselves these questions. Are they vibing? Are they getting a good vibe with each other? Or are they always arguing with each other and fighting? Do they leave each other's presence wishing they could stay like a lover? We all had lovers, right? When you leave your lover in bed and you have to go, you want to go back to bed. You don't want to go, fuck, I'm out of here. That's bad for loving. You want to stay, you want to climb back into bed. Think about that. You want to climb back into bed with the people that you're creative with. I mean that metaphorically. If you're excited about going to the office to see those people, to see those individuals, then you've got something good going. If you're happy to see them, how are you? How was your weekend? And you really mean it. Not one of these throwaway lines, right? Then you're working with people you like, respect, love. I'm a big love guy. I really believe that I believe in love. Yeah. It's important. Love what you do. Love the people you work with. Love the company you're at. You know, all of those things. You have to. If you're there going, I'll be here for another couple of months. I'll give them some stuff. You might as well go now. You know, don't wait a couple of months. Hopefully that made sense. One more in the back. Okay, last question. You guys are great. Appreciate you being here.
Hi.
Hey.
You say that creative is crash about something acceptable, but in many minds, acceptable is synonym of market wind. So, if you think that creative is fights with market.
Well, you know, some of my favorite games, you know, that cut out, are where the team just said, screw it, we're just going to do what we want, and this is hard. If you're working inside of a large company and you've got a corporate agenda to invest 10 or 20 or 30 million dollars in a game, and you have to make a return on that investment, you're operating with some pretty difficult constraints financially placed upon you. But if you're a group of college kids that have got together and maybe you're still living at home, this is your opportunity to do anything you want, to blow it wide open. Because it's just going to get smaller and smaller and more difficult. Imagine James Cameron, just as a thought experiment. James Cameron is probably the most financially successful director in the history of film. Titanic. I'm sorry? Yeah, and Avatar. That's what you were saying. And these movies make billions of dollars. Now imagine right now, let's go to James Cameron's house, and he's sitting in his living room and he's thinking about the next film he's going to make. That's tough. Because he knows intuitively he's got to make a film that's going to generate billions of dollars in revenue. You know, or he's got to say, I'm going to forgo that. That's a tough world to be in. I don't like that world. I would rather live in the world where I say, I want to create something that makes people happy and have a great day or a great evening after they come home from a busy working day, and they laugh and smile. I don't want to create something just because it's going to make money. Okay? I don't think there's an artist on this planet that should feel the pressure to create something fabulous because it's going to make money. I hate where money meets art. I've always hated it, but it's a reality of the world we live in. So if you've got a young group of friends and you're just starting your way in the business, have fun with it. Go crazy. Create shit that's wild. Really let the beast off the chain. Because that's when you can, and that's when you should, in my opinion. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.